guys, welcome to another podcast with me and Larry Namer. We're so excited to be back. Larry, it's our second podcast, huh?
Yeah. The first one went pretty well. This one, I think, will actually go better. And now we've kind of got everything a little more organized now. And there's a lot more going on in the world of entertainment these days.
Everything Hollywood. That's us. Everything Hollywood.
That's it. That's my life, everything Hollywood.
Well, what's going on, Larry? What's going on with the world of, there's a few big things happening. One is of course, the NFTs becoming bigger and bigger every day. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the NFTs and what that means for artists. Maybe you just want to explain what that is, first of all.
Sure. NFTs are non-fungible tokens, as they're called, are, the latest craze, and there's so much activity going on in the field. Everybody's jumping in, and it's it's, in my opinion, it's a little bit of a craze, particularly at the higher end. Somebody just bought a digital piece of art for $69 million and stuff, and that's I can't figure that stuff out. But NFTs is a practical matter in digital currency to do things that are much more like collectible cards. Like when I was a kid, we collected baseball cards, and to do some LeBron James has the greatest dunk, and you could sell the video of that and stuff. So kind of at the lower end or the daily end of the NFT market, I think there's a huge opportunity because you could really track ownership. And, from an artist or creator point of view, it gives you a way to maintain a connection to your work of art throughout its life cycle and to be able to benefit from it. Like if you take a painter and he paints something and he sells it and then he becomes very famous and the value goes up tremendously, that painter gets nothing out of that piece of art on, the second sale or the third sale. By using NFTs and using digital or cryptocurrencies, you could track that stuff so that there's some small portion that could continue to go to the creator throughout the life cycle of that particular piece of art. So ultimately, I think it's really good. I think right now there's a little bit of a craze, and everybody's looking at jumping into the NFT world.
And how is that? I've been hearing that could also translate. It's great for artists, obviously, but also that can translate into tracking like live events, tickets.
You could do tickets, you do collectibles. For somebody who's in the music business, it's fabulous also, because if you write a piece of music, this way you have the ultimate tracking system of who's using the music, how many downloads it got, and stuff like that, and you can make sure that your remuneration from the works that you created, whether it be singing or publishing or writing, that you're getting paid your fair share.
That's going to really change the whole world of music and even ticketing. You see this really the beginning of something big, Larry?
Yeah, I think it's big, it's inevitable, and I think you had a key word in what you said with the world of, because the media business and entertainment business really has become a global business now. It's not a U.S.-centric business or German-centric or anything like that. Fans of Rihanna are all over the world. So it gives the artists a chance to reach potential users of their art. Again, whether it's music or graphic arts or whatever, and to maintain some level of control over that art. So it does really work in the global economy.
Yeah, it's getting really exciting. I know I'm, on Clubhouse, I've been part of the rooms that are, artists are coming in to sell their NFTs, and it's been really, really great. So I just see a big future for this.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a bit of a craze now. Everybody thinks they've got an NFT. Here's a picture of my dog, I'll sell the NFT. That stuff is faddish. It's not going to work. But things of value, like having an original piece of music, original piece of art, anything like that, collectible cards, those things, the people behind those will benefit tremendously. And again, globally, not just in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think even for visual artists, they've had a hard time trying to, sell their artwork, right? And with NFTs, I've been seeing some great artists that have been able to collaborate, with some great musicians or somebody with a bigger name, and they've been able to really profit from and do very well in that space.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like I say, it's inevitable that it's going to be here whether people like it or not, and it's going to give the artist much greater control over the things that they create and the
Yeah.
ability to be remunerated properly from it, not just big corporations, but things that benefit them directly.
So I just want to ask you, when you were talking about if this the piece of art, if there's a if resells, then what happens if the value goes up? Then the artist actually benefits from that if it happens multiple times.
Yeah, in the NFT world, you could because it is tracking the ownership.
Right.
Exactly. And let's say you write a piece of music and you sell it to me, and then I sell it to John. We could track that. And if I made money on the sale to John, some little piece of that should go to you as the artist because the value of your work is increased.
Yeah. Wow. Speaking of Clubhouse, first of all, I want to say we have a special guest today. Ken Davidian, who played Borat, a dear friend of ours. We brought him in because he's doing so many great projects, and we wanted to kind of hang out and talk to him about all things Hollywood. But what I wanted to ask you now, going back to, I brought up Clubhouse real quick, but I wanted to ask your thoughts because I've been sort of in that space for a little while. I've been, not that I have a huge following, but I've developed some following on Clubhouse, and I've been meeting some great people. So I wanted to ask your thoughts on this audio space, in this audio social space. What are your thoughts? And I know now Twitter's getting into it, Facebook is getting into it, and several other social media companies are getting into it. So I want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan, quite honestly, and I think you know that.
Yeah.
A whole host of reasons. First of all, I looked at it and said, the valuation on Clubhouse is just astronomical, and I didn't see where there were barriers to entry. I said, as soon as this catches on, what stops Microsoft and Facebook and Google and everybody else from getting in and doing it bigger and better? And I think we're seeing that now. But also, Clubhouse started during the pandemic where everybody's home, everybody's a little bored, everybody's looking for things to do. And, a lot of people are jumping in and hosting Clubhouse sessions and stuff. I said, what happens when we get back a little more to normal and nobody's home during the day anymore and they're not on these things and you're not getting the number of people visiting these Clubhouse meetings and stuff? And then on top of it, to me, the experience was just a lot of people in a room yelling at each other. Yeah. And then a lot of people just couldn't care less who was talking. All they wanted to do was promote themselves. So it was like this very egotistical thing. And I just said, this is a fad. It's not going to stay where it is. Not that it'll go away, but it's not going to stay where it is for a long time. It kind of reminds me of Foursquare. I don't know if you remember years back.
Yeah.
Where you used to report in where you are, and then you find out who else is there. And I looked at it and said, at the end of the day, this is an interesting little gimmick, but who cares? After a week or so, do I really care about reporting in and getting a little star because I've been in my cubicle 17 times this week? I said, it doesn't work, and I think, it proved right. So to sum it up, not a big Clubhouse fan. Again, don't think it'll go away, but I don't think it stays anywhere near the level of popularity that it reached at one point.
And I think, Larry, that's what you're very good at. I think to kind of seeing the future of certain technology, right? And I think you told me that in the beginning a couple of months ago when I got really excited about Clubhouse, and you told me the same thing. And what I'm finding out is exactly what you just said. It's more difficult for me now because I have more meetings, I'm doing more things, we're doing this show, I'm finding out it's harder for me to be on Clubhouse because I'm busy with real world stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think you were absolutely right when you told me that a couple of months ago. At first I thought, come on, this is going to be great. But I got to tell you, you really develop great relationships because you're actually speaking to people, right? And you can develop that over on Clubhouse. So yeah, I'm seeing that. But now that Twitter, I mean, it's got to be something big if Twitter and Facebook are jumping in, right?
Yeah, and plus, there is the benefit of things being in one place. I mean, do you really want to go from this app to that app to this app to that app? Um, I don't see it. I actually like Facebook, even though some of the stuff is not the same as it is in another place. Some of the functionality, but it's one place. I go to, I have my friends list and stuff. I can connect with people. So for me, between LinkedIn and Facebook, I kind of can do 90% of what I want to do. And then, of course, I got my TikTok and, all my other stuff. But, these one-dimensional apps like Clubhouse, I just don't see it having the kind of popularity that Clubhouse got.
I think it's also very time consuming too, because you're on it and you're in a room, and obviously sometimes I see people that I want to talk to, like they're in a room, but I have to wait sometimes hours to just get my turn if I'm being pulled up on stage and be able to talk to that person, and sometimes that's not even possible. So I see, but there is a future for it because all of these big social media companies are jumping into it, correct? I mean, there is a space for it.
I think there's a future for the functionality of Clubhouse. I'm not sure about the entity of Clubhouse.
Yeah. No, they just recently got a $4 billion evaluation, which I was really, surprised. But are you surprised by that?
No, I'm not surprised by the valuation, but I am surprised by people that I thought were incredibly smart throwing money in and causing that valuation. I just think a lot of people are going to get hurt in that equation.
Everything Hollywood will be right back after this break.
Start it up.
So Larry, I gotta tell you something really interesting. I had a meeting today with some investors and people from China, and they were showing me a clip of like full-blown concerts in China. I think it was a music festival that was full-blown. So how is that working like certain countries like in China? Is the music festival, I'm not talking about a small venue, I'm talking about maybe thousands of people. How is that working? Is that open? Because nothing is open here at this point.
Yeah, well, they started opening up everything in China, and we've just heard that a lot of things are opening up here. But, you got to realize the difference between, let's say, China and the U.S. is, when you're dealing in a country like that, which has a lot more control over its citizens than, let's say, the U.S. In the U.S., if people say, I don't want to get a vaccination, they don't get a vaccination. In China, if they tell you to get a vaccination, you're getting a vaccination. You're not just, going, oh, I don't feel like you're impinging on my rights. And, so in those kind of countries, you don't have that kind of thing. So, what they have in China, which has been talked about here, but we haven't been able to really institute it, is the whole issue of contact tracing. Yeah. So, in China, they could actually, through your cell phone, they know where you are, where you've been, who else has been in those same places. So let's say someone did come down with the virus. They could then say, okay, they were next to so-and-so at this concert, and here are the other people that were in the vicinity. So therefore, we need to contact, these 100 people, and they need to quarantine for 14 days. So number one, they have the ability to contact trace much better than we do here. Number two, people there do what they do what the government tells them to do. I mean, that's why they were able to control this thing a lot quicker than we did, because when they told people to stay home, they stayed home.
So is that pretty effective? I mean, is that a way? So you see that that's something like that cannot be enforced in this country, correct?
Well, the when this first started, the whole issue of contact tracing was a big deal, and
Yeah.
people started, really pushing to be able to do it, and we've got some form of it here, but not to the same extent. But as we get further and further into the vaccine, and hopefully, a lot of people come to their senses and get the vaccine, so we could actually reach this point of herd immunity. We won't necessarily need it, but to think that this is the first and last time we're going to get hit with a situation like this is incredibly naive. I mean, we need to really take this as a warning signal and say we need to prepare for it, and there needs to be much better coordination among all kinds of healthcare workers. And as Dr. Taheri told us last week, the disparity, between different classes, economic classes, makes it so much more dangerous among certain people rather than others. All of this stuff we need to evaluate what's going on here and deal with it so that the next time something comes up, we immediately go into motion. We don't spend a year, making believe it's going to go away by itself, because it doesn't go away by itself.
Yeah, now that everything is sort of starting to, at least in California now, things are starting to open up. Jonny was just talking about Disney, and we're talking about, Six Flag and all these places opening up. Movie theaters are opening. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? And where do you see the concert, the larger venues going? I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but I want to get your thoughts now that things are starting to open up more and more. What are you thinking, and when are we going to go into like the full, okay, we're going to go to a nice concert and not worry about things?
Yeah, well, everybody's talking, all the music companies, the concert companies are talking about, summer, end of summer, fall, for really booking stuff. And they're starting to book. And, these things will open up with limited capacity. But the capacities won't be bad. I mean, I've just heard that Dodger Stadium is going from very limited to 67%, I think, in a week or so. So, little by little it's growing, and you'll see concerts all over. Movie theaters are, because they do electronic ticketing, they can block off seats. So if you book 2 seats, they can make sure that the 2 seats next to you and your wife are not taken by someone that you don't know. And so we're figuring all this stuff out. My guess is end of summer, we'll really start to see a lot of activity going on. I mean, and there's huge pent-up demand. I mean, people are dying to get out of the house. And like I say, last week I went to the Dodger game, and it was just such a pleasure to do something that resembled like the old normal.
But do you think that this could backfire because everybody's so excited to get out, and all of a sudden everybody's going to jump out and we're going to get out, and then next thing you know, we're having, problems and people are starting to get sick? I mean, do you see that becoming a problem, or do you think it's something that it's going to happen no matter what, and that's...
Well, I think, first of all, we're lessening the rate. So
Yeah.
by doing the things that we're supposed to do, wearing masks and getting vaccines, we have managed to curtail the rampant nature of this virus and stuff. And we've kind of, I wouldn't say we have it under control, but we're moving towards that. And then as long as we still maintain caution, where... Yeah, okay, so you don't have to wear a mask, but I think a lot of people will still continue to wear masks. Dodger Stadium just did a great job. They blocked off seats and made it impossible. Even if you wanted to, beat the system, you couldn't. The seats were, literally, strapped down, and you couldn't get into seats you weren't supposed to sit in. So they did a great job of making it as best social distancing as possible. Now I think almost half of California has now had 2 shots. So, as we get to the end of the summer, we're going to have a pretty good ratio of people who have had 2 vaccines versus people who have had no vaccines. So I don't think you'll get it as bad, as long as, again, we exercise some reasonable cautions and diligence.
Now, as far as film and TV productions, I mean, are you seeing any changes? As far as, are they becoming a little bit more lax? as far as I know that they've had some really strict rules, to for TV and film productions. I mean, do you see any changes, or is it all the same? Has it opened up more? What are you seeing?
I wouldn't say it opened up more. We've had these, the COVID protocols for film and TV production and stuff, and everybody's kind of gotten used to those now. So, everybody gets their temperature checked when they go on the set, and there's, you can't, just walk around with no masks and stuff like that. So you'll see those things maintained pretty close to what they are now. Maybe not as strict, but all production's coming back. By the end of the summer, we will have a lot of TV production, a lot of film production in motion.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, and I was talking to Ken today, and he's, which we'll invite him to come next week, but I think what he was saying is there's becoming almost a rush where a lot of people are kind of want to get their projects done, and they're rushing now because they haven't had they haven't been able to do it. Are you seeing you're going to see a big growth, or do you think it's going to be just slowly people are coming in?
No, I think you'll see a big growth. I think we're starting to see it now in terms of just development and getting ready for, end of summer when things are really opened up a lot. There are so many outlets out there now, between the networks, the cable networks, the digital outlets. The consumption rate is enormous. And they haven't had a big influx of new programming for quite a while. So they want to get back to really being able to have a lot of new stuff as quick as possible. So as long as they got the money and they're commissioning, you'll see a lot of stuff go into production.
So what are some of the, before we close today, I want to ask you about some of the projects that you're involved with right now. Like, I know you have stuff going on in China, or you did before the pandemic, and then maybe you could talk a little bit about what you're doing with FanVestor and some of the other projects that you're involved with right now.
Sure. We, FanVestor is a digital platform for fintech. It's allowing fans to connect to their favorite celebrities for investment in securities or specialty e-commerce, for charity fundraising, auctions, sweepstakes, etc. So that's one thing, and that's doing really well. And then my China projects are film and television in particular, and we'll be back in production on both film and television by end of summer. Hopefully, I say that with fingers crossed. But that's what we're planning for, and that's the way it looks. And we're doing stuff in China for China. We're doing stuff in China for in English for Western audiences, like things about China that people couldn't really imagine are going on in China, because China is really very different than it's typically portrayed here. And then I'm actually now working with. There's a really, really popular show called the Van Gogh, the Immersive Van Gogh Experience, which is coming to LA at the end of the month. It's coming to New York. It was in Paris for the last 2 years, doing amazingly well. It's where you kind of walk through the Van Gogh paintings and you're immersed in it and stuff, and it's incredibly been well received by the audiences and stuff. So where Metan is actually helping them get this set up in China, and we're at the early stages there, but we're going to do that. And I think the Van Gogh people are telling me that they'll be in 12 cities in the U.S. by the end of this year, which is amazing. I mean, last week they opened up ticket sales in L.A. By announcing where the venue will be, and it's the old Amoeba record store. And I think over the weekend they sold 68,000 tickets, and the show doesn't even open for another 3 weeks. So that should do amazingly well in China.
What is that show? Can you tell me a little bit more?
It's an art show, but everything is done with digital projectors and hologram. The latest in technology, 3D technology.
Nice.
And it really is immersive. It's where you actually become part of the Van Gogh painting and stuff. You actually can live within it and walk through them, and the write-ups have been absolutely incredible.
Wow. I heard something about it, but I didn't really know what it was. I thought it was more online, but you actually have to go there in person, right?
This is a live event. And it's where a few hundred people could go per hour, and they're going to be open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I think the numbers that they told me for New York and LA, they're already sold out 6 months in advance for both of those cities.
Wow.
It's got unbelievable write-ups, and as a matter of fact, if you watch the show on Netflix called Emily in Paris, that the Van Gogh show is actually in that TV show, so it's pretty cool.
Wow. Well, that sounds really amazing. I can't believe we're doing a second show together. So we've talked about a lot of interesting stuff. So thank you, Larry, again. And next week, I believe we have one or two great guests. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think we got number one. We have Laith Murad. Laith is fan investor, but used to be the head of marketing for Yahoo membership. And he's a real smart guy in the whole world of digital commerce and stuff. We'll talk about that. And then your buddy, Ken Davidian,
Yes.
from the Borat movie, which we got to get the scene from Borat. That's one of my favorite scenes in any movie. We got to show that as a preface to let people know who Ken is and stuff. And he's one of the funniest people alive. So that
Very
should be
funny.
a fun show.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Larry, again. And I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thank you very much. This is Everything Hollywood with Larry Namer and Omar Akram. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.